If you've been around this channel for a while, you will know that I've seen my fair share of isekai anime, especially in the past year since I started watching every single seasonal show, and after seeing so much of this genre, I'll be brave and say what nobody else is willing to. Isekai anime is getting overdone. But in the face of losing passion for a genre that everybody else already hates, I have been going through some of isekai's greatest hits, which led me to watching one of my favorite isekai in years. Cautious Hero. The hero is overpowered, but overly cautious. I love exaggerated things, especially in anime. I mean, two of my favorite anime of all time are JoJo's and Gintama, both of which are over-the-top exaggerations of shonen anime that end up becoming masterpieces in their own right. The same way that those shows are over-exaggerated versions of their genre, Cautious Hero is just a complete isekai parody that leans more on the side of Konosuba and Eminence in Shadow than Mushoku Tensei and Re:Zero. That, on top of being animated by Studio White Fox, the same studio that made Re:Zero, this ends up feeling more like a love letter to isekai than your average copy and paste slop that this genre is known for. But enough setup, and let me introduce you to the plot. Restarte, or Rista for short, is a goddess whose job is to summon heroes from other worlds in order to defeat the Demon King. But she's not like other goddesses, and when choosing who to summon to this world, decides to use a different strategy than your average isekai goddess. Oops, never mind. In a seemingly unending sea of uniquely named Japanese people, she stumbles across our hero, Seiya, a level 1 with insanely high stats, and she ends up summoning him to help her defeat the Demon King. This isn't your average isekai protagonist. He's 180 centimeters of pure muscle. Alright, just hear me out. This show is different, I swear. Okay, maybe he's not the most interesting looking isekai protagonist, but when Rista was looking at his stats and got so excited, she overlooked one glaring issue. He's an Andrew Tate fan. You see, Seiya is like those rise and grind gym influencers. He's casted off all women and only cares about one thing: self-improvement. Maybe that's a little bit off, but as the name suggests, he is impossibly cautious. And before even entering the world he was summoned to, he spends an entire week training in the isekai version of the hyperbolic time chamber. If you thought Bleach and Dragon Ball had a lot of training arcs, enter Cautious Hero, because in the short 12-episode runtime, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and a questionable 5 and 6 training arcs. This is a man who breaks every rule of anime. You know how in anime they never fully finish their opponent?
Hellfire! 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 Hellfire!
Weapon breaks mid-fight.
Second dragon killer?
Two kids with the potential to be the strongest in the world.
You get to carry my stuff.
A woman is being annoying. Needing to surpass your limits in order to defeat an enemy much stronger than yourself. A character you would never expect to be a bad guy is actually the main villain.
What if when you went to kill him, he gave you the hypothetical god-killing weapon? And what if you had decided to use that weapon to kill the goddess so you could trap and kill me too? Now, what if you, the War Master, are my real enemy?
That main villain is actually the annoying girl's dad. The biggest draw to this show is obviously the comedy, which I think is some of the best in all of anime. See, the formula for isekai typically goes like this. Take the same formula we've seen 100 times, but slightly tweak it and give it a new gimmick. Isekai, but now I'm a vending machine. Isekai, but now I have a smartphone. Isekai, but I got reincarnated as a dog and my owner loves me too much. And those are normally good for about 3 episodes of fun until the premise starts to get dry, but I think the premise of the hero being overly cautious in this show is handled perfectly, especially when it comes to the jokes. On paper, I think it's really easy to think that this can get boring quick. I mean, just how much can you really do with the joke of Seiya being overly prepared just to go and dog walk his opponent? But I think what they do so well in this show is that every time you start to think the joke is getting kind of stale, they introduce new characters to interact with, whether it's new goddesses, the two kids, or new types of enemies. So even if we know what's gonna happen with Seiya being overly cautious, the new characters don't, and their reactions to just how batshit insane this guy is are where the comedy comes from. On top of that, they are constantly subverting your expectations by using established isekai tropes. In most isekai, when the hero pulls up to save somebody, they'll tap into the power of friendship and use everything they have in order to protect their friends. So as isekai fans, we have this preconceived notion of why said hero is doing the saving, which makes it all the more unexpected when Seiya does something like save the kids from being executed because he needs somebody to carry his luggage, or him protecting Rista because her hair is good for making weapons. These completely selfish reasons for doing what he's doing is just a stupid fun twist on the genre you just don't really get in other shows. I haven't even talked about the biggest strength of the comedy, which is Rista herself. As explained in Gintama, wherever there is laughter, there is a funny man and a straight man, the straight man being used to voice the audience's thoughts, or in the event where there is no straight man, the watcher themselves plays that role. Well, this is the perfect role for Rista because she kind of plays the role of both. At the start, she's the one who takes on the voice of the audience and says what everybody is thinking out loud. But as the show goes on, she slowly leans towards being even more psychotic than Seiya himself, which just makes for a hilarious juxtaposition. On top of the surprisingly good use of the premise, the basic isekai-like animation is perfect for this show, because one of the funniest parts of this show is the different expressions that characters, but specifically Rista, make. In certain anime, when there's a set way characters look, like in Naruto for example, whenever you do end up getting those weird reaction images or in-between frame shots, it ends up looking a bit awkward, and frankly, it can be kind of jarring. But in Cautious Hero, there isn't really a set way that we expect these characters to look, because there's not a distinct art style for this show, and in general, it's super basic. But that's a good thing, because whenever the show breaks that art style, it just makes sense and isn't jarring like in some other shows. And the best comparison I have is Konosuba, where even though the art style is very basic, it's more of an artistic choice meant to lull the anime watcher into expecting a normal basic isekai only for it to go off the walls. I should quickly talk about the two kids because they're probably the only characters that don't stand out in this entire show, and Seiya was honestly right to call them luggage carriers because that's all they do, and I mean, I don't even remember their names. As a staple of isekai, this show is packed to the brim with fan service, but much like Konosuba, I think it's executed in a great way. And I think if you took it out of the show, it wouldn't be as good. I think one of the things that makes it work so well is that Seiya is not pervy at all, which is such a breath of fresh air as an isekai fan, because just in anime in general, they will make a main character pervy and try to play it off as a fun, quirky trait. Looking at you, Meliodas. But in reality, it just makes me uncomfortable. But in Cautious Hero, it's the women who are pervy, and that being juxtaposed with Seiya, who's just completely unfazed and only looking to prepare for his next fight, just works so well to subvert those expectations. I can't talk about this show without talking about the stellar voice acting, the biggest standout being Rista's voice actress in both the sub and the dub. I have now watched both versions of this show, and I can confidently say that they are both really good. Rista's over-the-top and insane voice acting, being responded to by the calm and monotone voice of Seiya no matter what the situation, just never failed to get a laugh out of me. And I also think they did a really good job at catering the humor more towards the language used in each version. I originally watched it in the dub, and I couldn't imagine watching it in a different language, but going back and watching the sub in preparation for this video was just as funny, if not even funnier. So, good job, voice actors. And that's most of what I wanted to say about this show, so now it's time to get into the ending. After defeating who was thought to be the final enemy, Seiya goes off to fight the Demon King all on his own, and we are given his backstory. We see a Seiya, but it's not the Seiya we know, one that falls more in line with your typical isekai protagonist, because he has been summoned to another world before. Due to his great talent, he was a reckless fighter who just believed everything would work out, and for the most part he was right, until they went unprepared to fight the Demon King, and that's when we were given this scene.
No, please!
Seiya!
What's this? I can sense the faintest signs of a new life coming from this woman's belly. That's your seed growing inside her, isn't it?
It is revealed that the girl who was eaten is actually Rista herself, and her and Seiya were together in his past life, even having a child, Rista being reborn as a goddess and Seiya being sent back to Earth, with both of them losing their memories. When I tell you I laughed here, it's not because I thought it was funny, it was out of pure shock. The entire premise they built up over the first 10 episodes is shattered as you realize that Seiya isn't just a psychopath, but a tragic hero with reasons for what he is doing. Once again, subverting our expectations, because oftentimes in isekai, especially ones with a strong premise like this, we aren't actually ever given a reason for why our hero acts the way they do, let alone having a gruesome backstory. And this is when we enter the final fight, where Seiya uses Valhalla Gate in order to take out the Demon Lord, but not before losing his own life. We're given the post-process of the fight, and we get to see the impact Seiya had on everyone's lives, setting an example for everybody. And then Rista's given a new quest, to go back to the world she originally died in. But in an exception to the rule, she is allowed to summon Seiya back, but as a level 1 of course. The light novel actually goes further than the anime, but to be honest, I do like where the anime ended off. I don't think it needs a new season. It came, did what it needed to, and wrapped it all up with a nice little bow on the end. This is an anime that found every way to subvert your expectations. Is this something I would recommend to somebody who's new to the genre? Probably not, but if you're a well-experienced isekai watcher, I think watching this, you will find something that's really special with more heart than most of the slop that this genre is known for. And it's finding gems like this that make me understand why I love this genre so much. But that's all I got for today. Peace out, isekai fans.